morning and welcome to Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg and it's the 9th day of April 2024. I am running on about half power today, so you're going to have to forgive me. I still haven't gotten my cup of coffee down. However, I did go to the eclipse yesterday, or I went to the eclipse. Eclipse was everywhere, right? We went down to the path of totality yesterday, and it was really, really cool. This is the second time I've done this in my life, and to see a total eclipse is one of those things that absolutely a beautiful, wonderful thing to see. So we'll talk about that a little bit. We have John Tater on today doing removing the electronic voting machines, the legal process. Tomorrow we have Todd Buffington on. Thursday we have Chris Darzinski, I think that's how you say his name, and we're talking about how to fix a city. And then Friday, Dr. David Kent's going to be on, who has become a real wonderful friend to myself and to a lot of people out there. He is going to be talking about first aid at home as we go down looking at more things on how to be less reliant on the system. And with that said, let me bring on my wonderful guest, Mr. Tater. You're looking like sharp this morning. What the heck? A green wig.
I'll have to tell you the story about that.
You're a little quiet, John. I don't know why you're quiet today.
I'm quiet?
You're quiet. That's possible.
Nothing's moved.
Okay.
Kick up the volume here. The volume.
Maybe you're sitting away from the microphone a little bit. I don't know.
Oh, but I'll turn it a little more toward me. Does that help?
Yeah, that helps a lot. It was a green wig. It's a curse. What is the green wig?
All right, I'll tell you the story. When I was teaching school, it was drafting at Stevenson High School, and I was losing hair at that point. I had quite a bit of hair missing. And so the kids thought they would, for Christmas, buy me a chia head. You're familiar with the chia head?
Yeah, the chia.
It grows the green things off the chia head.
Yeah.
Well, they bought me a chia head. Well, I accepted the gift as a token from the students. And I went out in the hall and I put on this green wig. And I came back into the classroom and there was a big roar and the principal wondered what was going on in the drafting class.
Oh, that's fun.
Where the green wig came from.
That's too fun. I love it. Well,
this is probably 1980 something or other. Vintage.
A vintage 1980 green wig. That's awesome. So it looks like we have a song today, boys and girls. What is it?
This is called The Unfortunate Man. This is all fake, by the way. So is the wig, right? It's all fake. The world is fake. Everything we see is fake.
I'm glad you brought that up because I'm not buying like anything I'm seeing right now. There's so much CGI out there. There are so many things that are just a disparity, and going back to the eclipse, everybody's, we're going to have an alien invasion. Blue beam's going to be there or whatever. And I'm like, okay, we're going to just run right to the fire and see what we actually have down there. And, this is like what I'm just going to say it, Satanists and what these global crime syndicate idiots do is they're going to take anything over that God made that's just really all by itself wonderful and fantastic and turn it into a circus. It's incredible. So we went down there. I've done it before, so it's really an amazing thing, and it goes back how long? Who knows? It's the beginning of the sun and the moon, and so when God created the sun and the moon, and so it's really an amazing thing to see. And we saw a very rare condition there yesterday too, which was beautiful. There was red lines coming out at the bottom, where it started at the bottom of the moon, and it extended through the corona, and it was absolutely gorgeous. I mean, it's amazing. But God created it. No aliens. I was there. Just like there's no graffiti in DC. That's a lie. There's no graffiti in DC. I was there. I didn't see any. It's not a disaster there. All of this is just nonsense. And we've got to start thinking. So there you go.
Are you ready?
Yes.
It's all fake. There once was a lawyer who called Mr. Clay. He had but 2 clients, but they would not pay. At last of starvation he grew so afraid, so he courted and married a wealthy old maid. At the wedding the lawyer made one big mistake. 'Twas not in omitting the wine and the cake. The ring was well chosen, they had a great fee, but the lawyer did not get a warranty deed. He's a very unfortunate, very unfortunate, very unfortunate man. Oh yes, he's a very unfortunate, very unfortunate, very unfortunate man. At night in the chamber the lady arose and began to prepare to retire and repose. Her husband sat near her, admiring her charms, that gave him such pleasure to hold in his arms. She went to the washstand to bare her fed face, and then she destroyed all her beauty and grace. The rose on her cheeks quickly grew very faint, and they saw on the towel 'twas nothing but paint. She went to the mirror to take down her hair, and when she had done so, her scalp was all there. She said, "Don't be frightened to see my bald head. I'll put on a cap when I get into bed." She hung her false hair on the wall on a peg, and then she proceeded to take off her leg. Her trembling husband got quite a surprise when she asked him to come and take out her glass eye. She's a very unfortunate, very unfortunate, very unfortunate man. Oh yes, he's a very unfortunate, very unfortunate, very unfortunate man. Now all you young men who would marry for life, be sure to examine your intending wife. Remember the lawyer who trusted his eyes, and a little bit later got quite a surprise. He's a very unfortunate, very unfortunate, very unfortunate man. Oh yes, he's a very unfortunate, very unfortunate, very unfortunate.
Yay! That's like the whole world we live in, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah, I posted this week. I posted a video on the latex or the silicone masks, and I think that it's worth looking into for everyone to really realize how much the CIA and other organizations actually do on a very base level disguise changing. Those masks are very, very difficult to spot even when you're right next to them. They're good. That's what they're made for. They're really, really good. So even on that level. But what I see a lot out there with is I see a lot of CGI, tons of it. I really don't know how much we've actually seen that isn't a stand-in for everyone, as well as the masks or CGI or some other technology they might have. But I really am very suspect of everything we see.
You know, my daughter sent me yesterday a link to WikiLeaks. We didn't go to the moon. And I've been saying that for years and years and years. We didn't go to the moon. We didn't go to the moon. And Of course, lots of people don't believe, but now it's coming out from other people. And she was, hey, we didn't go to the moon. She says, did you see this? I said, probably not from WikiLeaks, but I've got lots of videos on the fake moon landing. And so that's just part of it. That's just part of everything that's been going on.
Yeah, I don't think that we that we landed on the moon maybe the way that they said we did, but there's a few questions I have about that. I really do, because when you look at the interviews, I look at people's reaction. People can't hold a character for more than 15 minutes. I don't care who they are. Even if they're really good people can hold it a while, but generally they can't hold it for a long time. And you can start seeing cracks in the character that they're playing. But the biggest one, well, when Armstrong was talking about it, he was like, we didn't go to the moon. He even admitted to it many times on camera. But the one that was really telling to me was that there was a panel when the panel
I saw that.
astronauts got back. What I saw in their eyes was like they were like almost in shock. They looked like they were in shock, like they either saw something or they were
and they had to
threatened or something like that. But there was nothing real about what they were saying, and that goes to another thing. It's North Sentinel Island, where they say there's these. It's the oldest oldest culture that's never had contact with human beings. And so I was talking to somebody one day. I think he was a DIA guy or something like that. And it was real interesting. And he's like, I'm really, it was on a chat, and he said, really interested why nobody's even asked me about North Sentinel Island. I'm like going, well, what's there to ask? Of course you get in there and want to find out what's going on. So I started doing a little bit of a dig on that, and I got a hold of any video that I could get my eyes on, any video, and how these people are savage and they shoot at, it's the National Geographic crap, out in the Serengeti, that kind of thing. So anyhow, started watching video, but not what they were telling me. I was watching the video to see what was really happening there. The people were not savage. They were absolutely terrified, So there was some of the guys jumped into the water, and one of them, somebody brought a boat up and was throwing coconuts off to them in large fishing nets. They didn't look afraid. The guys did not look afraid at all. They were out there grabbing the coconuts and throwing them up on the beach and such. But the women were absolutely terrified and trying to drag the guys back into the jungle. They weren't hostile. They're not aggressive or hostile. So my next question is what are they actually doing to these people, or what's been done to these people on this island? I have a feeling that this is a very sad, tragic place, because we know with all the human trafficking, and honestly, what happens behind human trafficking is horrific, absolutely horrific. So these people were terrified. They weren't like savages or anything. They were scared. And the next question is why? What has been done to make these people so afraid?
This could be how they practice fear on the rest of the public. If they can scare a small group of people by doing a certain thing, then they can scare the bigger public, like COVID scare.
Scary COVID, yeah. Or the eclipse, or there's no end to it. There's just no end to it. Let's be afraid. We can't go into court. Let's be afraid of that because. Well, I don't know. My experience when I've been in court hasn't really been that scary. Just tell the truth. If you're telling the truth, you got nothing to be afraid of. So you just go in there and tell the truth, and let them have it.
If you know those so-called judges zip up their pants the same way you do, who are they? They just have the big black robes, so they look like Batman, and they scare you with their big bat robe and their like I've had a couple of judges wave their hands and say, "We're not going there. We're not going there," trying to scare me. So yeah, they're just evil people thinking that they can control the public, and they have been controlling the public because the public's afraid to go to court. Public's afraid to face those people, thinking that there's somebody powerful, and they're the guy behind the curtain in the Wizard of Oz. Whoa, I'm going to scare you. I'm going to scare you. But when you realize that you know the law and the law's on your side, and you understand it, then you lose that fear. And really, they're afraid of you.
When you take care of people, you typically have to interface with people in the court system because they own you. They own all of us. That's what they think, and that's how they act. And shame on all of you. Shame on all of the social workers out there and such that want to come in and intimidate people. So because I take care of a lot of people, I've interfaced with multiple ones, and I just tell them exactly what I think. It's, I don't sugarcoat anything. So I had one gal that called me recently, and she said, "Well, we need to have an interview with this person." And I said, "Why?" Said, "You haven't seemed to care for how long?" She said, "Well, this is actually her words." She said, "Well, this position has been vacant that I'm in right now for months and months and months." I said, "Tell me why they really care." I said, "This is so much." And I said it right at the social worker. I said, "This is so much bullshit." And I said, "You and I know it." I said, "If you cared, if the department cared, then they would have had the position filled and not left it open for months and months and months, telling me that they care about this individual." She didn't know what to say. I said, "This is one great big lie." And I said, "I know it, and everybody else knows it. If you actually cared, if the department actually cared about this person, so what's the game going on here?"
Control.
That's exactly what it is. And then, it was funny, we've gotten into this discussion about marriage, and we were pulling up a court case this morning, but I'm not going to go into it because the way that it was talked about by one of our presidential candidates that came to the debate this weekend. So we need to do a little research on it. But the whole thing with gay marriage period, I'm going to stand on my belief on this. Why is the government in marriage at all? It shouldn't be. It is, you know what? And I'm going to distill this down to a real simple explanation, because I know that we have government workers out there that are listening. So you got to use short sentences, small words for these people, because they're not like what you would say, "Oh, I don't know, real super intelligent about things." It is about owning your assets. This is what it is. Because when you go through a divorce, it's all about an asset division. That is it. And also for the state to have control and own your children. I believe that the government should be completely out of marriage, completely out, because they're if you want to get married, go get married. Have somebody marry you. Should be done right there. But when you enter into a contract or get a marriage license, if they tell you they're licensing that marriage, who the heck are they to license a marriage? This is not between the government. They are not over us when it comes to marriage. Now, I am legally married in that sense of the word, right? Whatever that means. But because we went through the process years ago. However, with that said, knowing what I know now, would I get legally married now? I don't think I would, for a number of reasons. I don't think I would have government involved in it. But that's me.
I agree with 100%.
And it ends the gay marriage discussion right there. And a lot of gay and I've had discussions with a lot of gay and lesbian people, and mostly it's because they want to trap me into saying one thing or another. And I'll just say I'm not going to, what do you think about gay marriage? I said, I'm not even going to get into that stupid discussion with you, because it's a dumb discussion. It's a low IQ discussion to even have that discussion, because the real discussion is should the government be involved in marriage? The answer to that, a decisive answer, is no.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then they, according to Oberfeld, and we'll have to look at that further more. I just pulled the case and I started reading. There's a lot of nonsense going on back and forth with far lefties and the right as to how they ruled in that case. So I got to find out what that candidate that was running for president in our party is using that case for. I'm not quite sure he's using it correctly, but I don't know. So we're going to have to do a little digging there. But I got
a wonderful debate. Did you like that debate? I really did. We learned something in this debate, and the reason why I liked it so much is we did a video. We allowed people to join by video, which I am all about cutting the money and the waste out of government. It's absurd the amount of money that is going into a divisive process, which handles nothing. So to do it by video, I mean, that's what they taught us during COVID. We can use the weapons and turn it right around on them, is that we don't need to show up in person. Therefore, we don't need to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars to put on these absurd debates the way that they're doing it now. We could actually have a discussion. And when we laid down the rules that there will be no attacking other candidates. If you don't answer the question that's being asked, we're going to mute your microphone, because we're not going to turn this into a circus. So that was one of the it's like, this is the question. How would you answer it? Not, well, she did that or he did that, which is what a normal debate is. It's ridiculous. It's like watching two 16-year-old pom-pom girls, talk about which way to go in a line. It's ridiculous. But I thought it was great.
Here's my question. And I got a good question here, I think. Education of politicians.
Unfortunately, yes.
Suppose you are going to be hired in as a school teacher, and you walk into a school system and you say, yeah, I don't have any college education, or I have college education in the field of engineering, but I'm going to teach English. And you want the school system to hire you based on you have a 4-year college degree, and therefore you should be hired into teaching a specific subject matter. Well, here we have a bunch of people showing up in our party, and this goes across the board. In other parties, and you ask them what is their background, and they come up with some, well, I'm a lawyer, and therefore I can become therefore I should become a president, for example. What do you know about the Constitution? Well, we only looked at it once, or we only studied it once. Or what are the 3 branches of government? Well, as AOC said, I can't remember her exact words, but she says it was legislative, executive, and I don't remember what she used as the judicial side, but she did not know the 3 branches of government. And then we put her in office, and we expect her to run in office, not knowing something very similar or very simple like the 3 branches of government. What else doesn't she know about the Constitution that she swore an oath to uphold? She's not the only one, though. It goes across the board. Look at Biden. Biden is using anything he can to take away guns from the public. Does he know the Second Amendment? Does he know what shall not be infringed means? We put politicians or these public functionaries in office because they either have a pretty face or their name recognition, but they do not know what the job requires. And this was very evident when we had the debate Saturday, that all of those people that were in there didn't know what the job required. We had one guy that was reading parts of the Constitution when we would ask him a question. He would cite some part of the Constitution. Well, what does that have to do with the question I asked? Then we had others that, like the talking point person that was in there, and all she did was read off her talking points. No matter what the question was, whether it fit the question or not, the talking point was what you heard from her, and she was way off track. Like most of them, had no idea what the job of the president was to be.
Well, and I asked the one question of, and I was very specific. I said in 10 words or less, a person should be able to answer questions very simply in most regards. If they know the subject matter, you can truly put it down to one, or if the questions are asked correctly, and not to trap them, but that what do you really know about this? So you have to have good questions, but if you have good questions, you can also formulate very short answers. So I said in 10 words or less, how do you disable the overreach or the usurpation of the large corporations such as BlackRock, State Street Capital, and Arabella, etc.? How do you end their economic warfare that they've waged upon, treasonous economic warfare, because a corporation now is being treated as an individual? How do you end that quickly? I had one answer that was a good one, but the rest of them really struggled with that. This is a matter of national security. It should be one of the top priorities on people's list, along with elections, the election fraud. What happened is fraud, as well as the borders, those things that are a direct threat to America, and America being we the people, us. It's a threat to us. And I didn't get one answer that really went to the jugular of this whole thing, and that's enforce antitrust.
Yeah.
That was the answer I was looking for. Nobody quite got it right, but it's enforce antitrust, because there are some very quick and easy ways of doing things. Now, with that said, and you look at the candidates, we had a variety of people. They weren't necessarily members of the Constitution Party.
Oh, really?
And I think that this is a really good thing for the Constitution Party to take a stand on that. I would love to have a debate that had, I think there's 1,000 candidates that are running. And I've been trying to think of how to do this to give everyone an equal vetting in a way. Because the way it's being done right now, it's a pay to play, the one with the most money, which is why I'm against both endorsements as well as any PAC contributions. I have a real problem with all of this, because it's the money that's choosing the candidates through advertising means, through messaging and marketing, not what they know, in order to place people in positions to run our financial asset, the nation, right? I would love to see a debate that we do on the Constitution Party that would include President Trump, that would include RFK Jr., that would include Biden. I would like to see one that involves kind of maybe all of them having quick answers. They don't know the questions beforehand, and see if they can answer it quickly. I want to see the reaction time on it. That's what I would be looking for. But I would do it very differently. I think we could do it having them on together on stage and just kind of looking at, but I would rather see it done as a job interview. Blind questions where a person is asked in, say, like an interview, blind questions with them in a room by themselves. Then, all of them ask the same questions. And because there's an advantage when you go into a debate of being the last person asked the question, because you're listening to the other people's answers. And so unless nobody answers the question well, they're mining off of each other's knowledge. And so it's not even a debate. It's not even a test of a true skill. It's a sham. It's a really stupid way to vet to vet somebody for a job interview for a position.
That's right. Absolutely. I agree with you 100%.
So my idea would be to take those clips and have the question and then have each of the interviews underneath it that people could go in and click on those interviews in order to see systematically who says what.
I agree. The other problem that we have is credentialing for becoming a public functionary in an office. What I mean by that is, as a teacher, I had to do all of this extra education, re-education, or further education, or enforcement education, whatever you want to call it, for my position. In order to keep my position, in order to keep my tenure, I had to go back to school for 2 days, 3 days a week, whatever it was. And a lot of that was a sham, but I had to do it or I would lose my credentialing. What credentialing is necessary for a public functionary who steps into an office? First of all, does that public
clearly none currently, because we had a Kenyan in office.
Yeah. Well, the first question is, what is the very basic thing that you have to know when you get into office? What's the very basic thing that you have to know?
Not even going to answer that because you're going to go, you're wrong. So I don't know where you're going with this. So go ahead. You got to be a citizen of the United States.
The Constitution. If you don't know the Constitution, how could you operate in that office?
Well, I'd go back to even a shorter one, which is, are you actually a natural born citizen?
Well, of course.
But see, so,
but that's in most of the cases, that's a given, other than the CIA putting up Obama into that position. That's the reason Obama ended up in that position, and the DOJ and the Democratic Party all in cahoots, to use that terminology, to put a person in office that would follow their particular desires or goals. And it was all about how to bring down the country. That's what it's all about. Obama wasn't there as the president of the United States. Obama was there as what he called himself, a renegade, to destroy America. And anybody that doesn't see that now is still asleep at the switch, doesn't understand what's going on. But that was the reason Obama was brought in, and the fact that he was not a natural born citizen was not important.
Or Kamala.
Yes, she's another one.
She's
she's absolutely can't become president under any circumstances. In fact, in the case of Obama, if Obama was in fact Barry Soetoro, he was an American citizen, but he was being brought up by a communist, which was Soetoro, which was the father. If he's not Barry Soetoro, but really Obama out of Kenya, then he's not an American citizen. And either way, he would have not gotten in office.
He admitted to it. He admitted to being a Kenyan. So by his own admission, he disqualified himself.
That's right. And so that in itself shows the kind of credentialing that the Democratic Party specifically, but not only the Democratic Party, because the Republicans were trying to pull the same crap on the public in the past. The uniparty system was you just put on a red shirt and you're a Republican, or a blue shirt and you're a Democrat. But the real being an American and fighting for America, that's not there. It's just the label. And you're right about the labeling and the nice smile, and it's all about publicizing or promoting through advertising who you want in office. It's not about is that person an American citizen and going to do right for the country. Credentialing was something that had to be done, and Obama should have went to school to learn the Constitution, because I'm sure he doesn't even know what his job was in office. He's not the only one, though. I'm not picking on him alone, because George Bush was the same, Clinton was the same. They were pretty faces put in office, and they had no idea of what the job entailed as being a president of the United States.
Oh, okay, so I'm going to stop you there. I didn't think any of those gentlemen were particularly good looking, just so you know. So that like comes from, now my husband is good looking to me. He is a very beautiful man, but I can't say that those guys. Now I don't think that they're all that good looking. In fact, I think Bill Clinton looks like a complete and utter dork. So there you go. I mean, I never thought he was a good looking man. I mean, what's that?
It was part of the marketing.
Yeah, it's like, so they're telling you how good looking these guys are. I'm sorry, I didn't think they were that good looking.
Well, I agree with you.
Yeah.
But my point is that it's all about marketing. It's not about who they are. And our political parties are a sham on this country, both Democrats and Republicans, because what their job originally should have been was to pull the best candidate they could find and put that candidate up for election. But they didn't do that because they were all going after an agenda. Right.
And look at the comments with people. You know, I wish, you know, I really honestly think that, you know, getting somebody that's not so perfect that can relate to people is much higher of a priority than, say, the plastic political action figure Pence. I ever look at that guy? He looks like a plastic. He's like a plastic political action figure. You know, he's got the smile, he's got that, and I'm like, I don't know. I'd rather have somebody that's kind of like good old boy or good old girl up there that talks the truth, that isn't just you know, constantly selling you snake oil or an agenda or telling you what to think. I'm done with that. I think everybody's done with that. I can't stand listening to Pence talk.
Well, they're all the same. I can't stand
any
of them except Trump. I do like listening to.
They're like robots, or they're like robots or something. There's nothing human about these people. They don't act like the rest of us. I mean, can you imagine? You know, can you imagine sitting down over coffee or something, a glass of wine or something with these guys and talking to them? I think this would be me. Right. The whole time it would be like this.
Yeah.
You know, trying not to go to sleep on them because they're not even real. That's another thing. They're not even real. I want somebody that's real. The good, the bad. I want to see their flaws. I want to see the things that are right about them. But it's just like we talked at the debate, because John was there too. John and I were both there. The thing that I'm looking for isn't the person even that has all the right answers. I loved it when you asked about the de jure, the de jure question, and nobody even understood what the word de jure meant. Now, I'm not going to hold that against them, because all of us had to come into this knowledge at some point in time. We don't know everything, but what I'm looking for is either honesty or the ability to learn. Somebody that's like, tell me more. And they're actually not trying to just fluff up an answer, but they're trying to work through the process to actually find out. The communication skills are good enough that they're trying to find out what it is that person is actually saying, so that they can take that information in and say, well, I need you to teach me what you know, because I don't know everything, but I know the process of getting you heard, and try to see what we can do to, this is the process. Try to see if we can address your concerns. That's what I'm looking for, because nobody can know everything, but there are some rudimentary things that they need to know. Agreed.
I don't know if you know it or not, but Mark said the Norton versus Shelby County to each one of those candidates.
I did, and that was a fail. That was absolutely a fail on all the candidates' part, because if they come to and that was to all of them. I'm going to be fair-handed across the board on this one. Now, I don't hold it against them for not knowing, but what I do know is that if somebody reached out to them before a debate, and that person was likely to be at that debate, they don't have to be a scholar on this, but if they would have, the process could have been somebody reached out beforehand, and part of the prep work going into this is pick up the phone and make a phone call. I don't know this. and and said, can you help me understand this, and why is this important? It's not that you have to know everything going into office. It is, are you teachable? Because we've got a huge, this is one of the greatest things about myself doing all these interviews. I don't know everything. I know some base things, and I can tell you that integrity is my thing. Okay. We've got to be honest. We've got to be transparent and such. But by talking to a broad amount of people like I do every day, you kind of are getting a bigger and broader field of view of what we have out there. Your purview increases. Most people have one issue that they know, and they know it really well, but they don't know all of them. So they've got a very narrow scope, and that narrow scope, it's great because they know everything in that area that a person could ever absolutely know. Like you and your group, you know Norton versus Shelby Township, and all the Shelby County, that all of the implications that go with it. That's great, because when I talk to you in the group that you get together with, I'm learning everything that you know on a subject you focused on for 20 or 30 or 40, not 20, 30 years, but you focused on this for so long. I don't know when it was that you guys stumbled upon this, because at some point in time, somebody picked it out and said, oh my gosh, look at this. This is the key to taking down all of the unconstitutional entities that are out there, and all the regulations that go with this. So I don't know what year you came and stumbled upon this, or Ron, or everybody else, because everybody in your group stumbled upon it either by finding it or finding you to explain this to them. That's how it works. And then you jump into it and you learn. But having a broad view of talking to different doctors, for me, and people that know the elections, the election integrity people, it's an amazing thing. And this is how it's supposed to work. We're supposed to bring forward what we know, not in hostilities of, why don't you know this? Because that's not the right thing. We need to get people that are willing to step forward, and for us to be able to come alongside of them and say, I'd like to help you with this. I'm willing to help in this direction. This is what I know. And that person's got to be teachable enough to listen to what they're saying and be able to put this thing all together in kind of a nice administrative package for the people of the state of Michigan. That's what I'm looking for, or the country.
Well, I agree, but I also agree that if somebody gives you a heads up before you show up for a conference or a speech or a debate, if somebody gives you a heads up, then you should be looking at that heads up.
I agree. That's exactly what I was saying at the beginning of that, is that you have to take the time. If somebody reaches out to you on something, now there's only so many hours in the day that people have. I get it. But if you're going to go to and I'm sure that nobody else probably reached out to the candidates beforehand. I'm sure of it, because I believe I was told, and I think it was a state rep that said this, that they maybe receive 5 to 10 letters a month. If they receive 5 letters from their constituents in a month, that's a lot. And I want you to think about that. If they're in a position from somebody that like runs companies, if you get less than 5 emails pertaining to a company that you're in charge of a month, I can't even conceive of that. But that's the job that's fallen down on we the people. We're not talking to these people, and we're not bridging the gap. We're just going in there and getting mad and yelling at them. That's not okay. Even if they're doing something wrong, there's a better process than that. But those people on the debate stage, if they never responded to one query or one person that's reaching out to them, what do you think they're going to do in office?
Exactly.
Nothing. And so that would be, I'm gonna be talking to all of them. I really do think that I'm gonna see if I offered for all of them to come on and to talk about things, because I'm gonna try to help educate them. because we need to have really good educated candidates. Now, with that said, I would love to have President Trump come on the debates of any time or show up at our convention, our nominating convention for the Constitution Party. I would love to see that happen. I would love to see anyone that wants to run go through the process to be able to be included in the vetting process. And the Constitution Party does listen to everyone. We will listen to people that talk. Bill and I have talked about that for the state of Michigan. Anyone that wanted to stand up and run for an office, we will listen to them, but we will brutally vet them. It's going to be a brutal, if they disqualify themselves, they're going to be absolutely. And we, after the debate, we talked, the four of us that are on the executive committee. Well, there's more than this, but the ones that are the executive board, there's a couple more, but we talked about this afterwards on what we thought of every candidate. One of those candidates wants to strike God from every single document.
Ooh.
And he was one of the candidates that when he was talking, I really liked some of his answers, but he wants the elimination of God from every single document.
Unbelievable.
But it never came out in the debate.
Yeah.
And so this is the second step to going through a debate, is to listen to their words. Now we've got a little homework to do on these people to find out. So some people they may know it, and they may, in a debate situation or in a situation, that's why I think we should go to smaller interviews rather than a debate. Some people choke when they get on stage because they maybe cannot show the knowledge that they have in that situation. They go back to their talking points and such, but they may also be someone who has worked in Washington for a very long time, understands the process, and has a plan. But in that environment, they may not be able to actually get to the points because it's a stressful environment for a lot of people. So that you're testing them for their stress level in an unconditional situation. That's okay. We can do that. But there's more that we have to look at. That is one metric. That's not a complete picture.
That's right.
So that gentleman was struck right off the possibilities for me. I disqualified him on the basis of striking God off of all documents.
You were not going to tell me who that was, are you?
Joel.
He's the one that backwards the Norton versus Shelby County too.
I was not okay with his answer. So I'm just going to tell everybody, but you should look into this. Look into what these candidates stand for. Now, I also think that this is very, very interesting. It's an interesting process to go to because all of them, a bunch of them called me and said, well, who do you think won? Who are you going to support and vote for? I said, I'm not going to answer your question. On the basis of everyone deserves a fair shake. And I am not dumb enough to go to one of these things and say, oh, they answered this question on XYZ correctly, so I'm going to vote for them. That's not a thorough enough analysis to choose someone to be employed as the Commander-in-Chief of the United States of America. And it left out other candidates, of which I am also considering. So, and want to know, but the process too is to find out what do they know and would they maybe be somebody who would be great in a cabinet position. So it's looking for information, not trying to go our favorite sports team. That's nonsense.
Well, that's the way we've been playing this game for a long time. So we have people need to wake up. People need to really question the people that are running for office. They need to get out there. They need to ask them questions. They need to find out what that person knows.
Yes, and I think so. Now, I know a lot of people are on here listening because we're going to talk about removing the electronic voting machines, and I fell down and John fell down on this, and John fell down because I fell down because I was going to get him the names of people in our area. And I did look it up, and I put up the resource for people to be able to find their elected officials. I put several resources up on my Telegram channel. Also, the voting machines are Hart, Dominion, and ES and S.
Hart, HART?
Yes. Hart voting systems, Dominion voting systems, ES and S voting systems.
ES and S. Okay.
And the problem that I have with all of these companies is because, say, I'm gonna pick on Dominion right now, and if they sue me, okay, I guess we're gonna get this out, and we're gonna fight it out, because some of us would go into this to, okay, drag it out in the open here, and we're gonna have a discussion, because I think that I think we should go through all of them, but I know for a fact that Dominion broke off the department to audit the machines and audit the election. They broke off, in essence, what it looks like is a department within, and our elected officials used this department of Dominion under a different name, but it's sort of like there's not enough degrees of separation to give anybody any comfort zone there. It should have been a completely unattached third party. They didn't do this. So they were using Dominion's own structure in order to audit Dominion. This is the problem that I had. Now, I listened to, I think it's Mary Whitehead. She's a rep. I think it's Mary Whitehead in Michigan. And I actually listened to her response to a question. Well, it wasn't even a question. It was part of her opening speech. And I sat there and I was like, Almighty God, is there any intelligent life out there on the planet? They asked her, or they didn't ask her. She just was like, we had an absolutely wonderful, and this is how they always deliver it like this. That we had a wonderful process, and you can believe me that we had a process that was a wonderful process. Our process was a wonderful process, was wonderful, on and on and on. And I'm like, okay, because we have a department in Lansing that's doing a wonderful job auditing the election. This is where your jaw drops, right? Like, you got to be kidding me. By her own admission is, we have a department in Lansing auditing Lansing for corruption in Lansing.
Yeah.
That's exactly what she said.
Well, you know how corrupt it was when they kind of couldn't find your signatures to run when you were running for governor.
Yeah. And then I find out later that Dan Hartman was in another room meeting with Matt Maddock. Dan Hartman, the one that showed up to represent me. And I'm sitting here going, I'm not really sure what's going on here. I guess I would love to I would actually love to talk with Matt Maddock. He came up to me at an event and he was a little more than annoyed with me. He's like, he said, you've said a lot of mean things about my wife. And I'm like, hold my beer. I've had more crap said about me that are outright lies. If you're going to get into this, you better have some thick skin. And he was almost on the verge of meltdown. I mean, he was like shaking, and it was kind of crazy. I'm like, said mean things about your wife. They were true about the Michon Maddock electioneering rally, because I heard it with my own ears. That's what I just term it. And they didn't term it that way. I did. But the term is that we're here because we want to make the delegates feel good.
Oh, feel good.
That was the exact words. And I heard it over and over again so that they could manipulate them into voting for the candidates that they were putting up. It wasn't a non manipulated rally. And who was in charge? Michon Maddock. And did they run out of water? Yeah, they ran out of water. Food, there was no hand sanitizer there. People were without food or water for 6 years. That is an absolutely cartoonesque, ridiculous fail that they wouldn't have even thought ahead to have a semi full of water there or things that were there in case there was a problem. You would not staff a job with expecting that many people there and run out of water, run out of food, run out of no hand sanitizer in the porta potties, tripping hazards around the vendors. It was like 6 inches of mud in some places where people were it was like in the field. And I'm like, it was one of the most poorly executed events I think I've ever seen in my life. And if somebody doesn't like the criticism, well, I'm sorry. You should probably embrace it and say, yeah, we kind of screwed up on that one. We're going to make sure that we think this thing through a little better next time. And this is the plan. But boo hoo hoo, I feel sorry for no one. It was a very much a shame with what I saw. And I felt kind of embarrassed that President Trump, the rightful president of the United States, walked into this amateur attempt of a rally. By who? By the people in the state party. And then I went and I talked to Christina Bobb, and that's another whole story there. That's like talking to I don't know, demon incarnate. I went up and talked to her and I said, hey, Christina, she'd interviewed me a couple of times. I said, I'm really concerned. Can you get a message to President Trump or something? There are people who are having health crises out here because they don't have water. And I went and kind of beat up a couple of Secret Service guys, not literally, but I want that water. Give me that water now because we've got people that need it. And nobody was like doing anything. And I said, well, you get a word to him. And she's like, why don't you just leave? Just like that, through bared teeth.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she said it like, and then she came up and spooked around behind me, showed up behind me and the thing. And I'm like, I don't know what planet you're from, but you sure as heck look like whatever demon's crawling around inside of you. I'm not buying it. And she said it, she was like, she just like weirded out 3 days, but literally through bared teeth.
Well, the problem is that we need all of these people brought out into the public. We need public scrutiny of the kind of behavior that these people do, not because they're in office, but because what they do when they're in office and how much care they have for the public when they're in office. There's a whole lot of them in Lansing that think we are the sheep and that we will do what they tell us to do and that they're in charge. They're not. They're not in charge. They're representatives. They're supposed to represent us. And that's the kind of people that we put in office to represent us. Come on.
And we need to trust ourselves. I mean, nobody needs to tell me when I'm looking straight up in the face of a demon. You have somebody that's burying their teeth with that much venom. I mean, and it was 3 times, and it's like, it was just I had 3 separate and very weird communications with her that day. Very weird.
But she's not alone. There's a whole pile of them out there that are doing that. You just into one. But the problem is that we need to publicly put them on. There should be a wall of shame.
There should be. And call them out. And everybody that's out there needs to call out these people who literally are parading as a patriot or something else. And they're lying their ever living behinds off. Trust yourself when you see somebody that's out there that's not telling you the truth. Everybody, you got to trust yourself because God will talk to you. He'll tell you what you're seeing. You don't need to have a pundit or me or John or anybody else tell you what you're looking at. You're smart enough, and God leads you through this. You don't need us to tell you this. You can see it.
The world is fake.
It's fake.
What we see in front of us is fake. It starts with the fake money, and it goes from there. We have fake politicians, public functionaries that do not do the function of their job in office. We have fake people. We have fake government. We have fake judicial system, and so on and so forth. We have to wake up and change that system and bring it back to reality. And we can't as long as there are people that are not paying attention. And there are a lot of them still out there that are still not paying attention. But
there were only 2 endorsements that I accepted when I was running for governor. And it's because I know these 2 gentlemen. And General Flynn was one of them. And I know him. And I'm like, I'm not going to accept any endorsements unless I actually know the people involved in this, because that's not okay. That whole endorsement system needs to go down in flames. It's wrong. And it's telling people how they should think based on associations with other people and or associations. Well, that still proves nothing. It really proves nothing. They may think that they've got somebody to say, let's just say, one of the associations, like Gun Owners of America. I did talk to them for a little bit of time, but they weren't. It wasn't enough to. I wanted to know what they knew. I wasn't looking for an endorsement, and I never went after any endorsements. I really didn't. I didn't really too much ask for them. I did say that, I would love an endorsement from General Flynn, because he's a good man and I know him and I know what he went through. And which brings me to the fact that there's his movie's out, and they canceled the event in Michigan that was here, Michigan and Ohio. But I talked to him a few days ago. I talked to General Flynn, and I think that he may be bringing the event back, but we're waiting to hear on this yet. And if he is, I was kind of the point person for the state of Michigan. So we'll see what happens there. But I will support him the rest of my life. I know him. I know his family. And I have nothing but gratitude for General Flynn. He's a good man. And I don't care what anybody says, whether they're ridiculous assessments. Like he said this prayer, really, okay, you're gonna down somebody on a prayer they said based on what? What have you looked into on this? And people say, well, it was a prayer that was an occult prayer, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, I'm not sure that you understand the context of it. And I think sometimes people will throw things out there in order to provoke a reaction, to see the intelligence level of people around them. Happens all the time. And when you get people who are really, really smart, they're going to use everything they have to vet people.
I'm not, I don't want to cut this short, but is Courtney coming on today?
No, she's off today too. It's just you and I today.
Yeah, the problem is I can't stay too much longer.
Oh, okay. Well, we're going to apologize to everybody for not getting to the thing on the removing of the electronic machine.
Okay, now that I got the names, I will work on the letter a little more.
And I'm going to put all of my elected. We're going to put this out there as if it's coming from myself. So I'll also hand that over to you. We were both very busy with the debate, the Constitution Party debate this week, as well as I went to the eclipse yesterday. Let me show you. Do you have a minute?
Yeah, a couple of minutes left, but I do need to get out of here because I do have to jump in the car and make a trip.
Okay, let's see. I'm going to go up to my photo that I have here a minute. It was really pretty cool. I think this is a wonderful discussion to have right now because, okay, there was only a few of us standing together there, and everyone there was military except for the son of one of the gentlemen. Well, he was a fireman, and in around New York. He was real interesting, and his son was there. His son's name was Thor, which was real interesting. But Thor took this picture, and I said, can I use this? Because I thought it was the best picture that came out of exactly where we were standing. And it was absolutely wonderful. I'm going to say it's such a beautiful miracle of God to see this, just the sheer brilliance and radiance of this, and I think this is kind of a nice thing to talk about. When you see the energy around the sun, it's kind of like the energy around each one of us and God himself. What we see is only part of what we are, but we are a spirit in a in a physical body, but that doesn't mean it's contained entirely in that body. And when we look at the corona around this, I think this is really amazing. But underneath this right here, now some people saw it as a point of light. I saw it as a line, and so did 4 of the people here. And it was probably about a quarter of the dimensional height of the moon. So it started here and it extended about down to about here. That's what I saw, a red line. And it stayed there most of the time through the eclipse when we were in totality. It was absolutely beautiful. It was so beautiful, but it was a little bit one of those things that you looked at and said, what are we actually seeing here? What is it that we're seeing? Well, I did some research on this because I'm the one that's going to ask the question: are we seeing refraction? Are we seeing a reflection or refraction, or what is it? Because I want to know. This picture was shared by somebody in Texas, and I don't have the person's name because it came up, but this is what they saw right down here. And it was relatively in the same spot. And I have a friend in Ohio that she saw the line also. We weren't in Ohio, so this was something that was seen across the path of totality across the United States from Texas. I was in Indiana. A friend saw it in Ohio. And apparently it's kind of a very miraculous and unusual thing to see. They say that it is a reflection, some sort of a reflection that comes off of valleys or the surface of the moon. So there's something on the surface of the moon that reflects that. So it's a reflection off the surface of the actual moon. So we don't know what that is, though. We don't know if it's a valley or a mountain or something, but I can guarantee you that people are going to take naturally occurring events and try to make it into things that are not real, or that are sensationalized in order to direct our attention elsewhere. So why is it that they turned this into a national emergency? The whole thing was turned into a national emergency. There were a lot of people. We were down by Bloomington, Indiana. And we went downtown. We went to Five Guys to get some fries and have something to munch on during this thing. And so I was downtown in downtown Bloomington for a little while. There were a ton of people there, drinking and in the bars and on the streets. It was really a huge party type of a situation. Kind of fun. It was pretty fun just to see. But we went out and we found a church parking lot up on a hill somewhere, and that's where we sat. And there was less than 10 of us there. And we got to see this, but on the way in and on the way back, the last time we were down in Tennessee in the path of totality. Now that was a circus. When we hit the highways, there were so many people there. I can't even tell you how long it took us to get back. We actually dropped off the highways, and that was as convoluted as what we saw on the highway. But we didn't see any of this, none of this there. It was pretty low key. Didn't see any alien ships or anything like that out there. We didn't see any of this nonsense. Any of it. All I saw was God's a miracle of that has repeated over and over again through centuries and centuries and thousands of years and probably tens of thousands of years and probably more than that. I think that's really what we saw as a miracle that God himself put to give us something beautiful to see. Another beautiful thing that God created for us to see. So nothing more, nothing less. And that was enough.
Yep. And with that said, I do have to go. So
okay,
sorry to leave you off in a lurch, but that's the way it is.
That's okay. You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and pull Ralph into this a minute and see if Ralph can come online, because we can talk about it too. And but But you have a great day, and we'll talk to you later. And we'll bring that case back on next week, and with the proper names filled out with real people, John and myself, real people here who have other things to do also. And we do this for free. So, but we'll put this all up there next week. So you have a great day, and I'm going to see if I can get Ralph on. Okay.
Thank you. Before you cut me, remember we're on Wednesday nights on Zoom. So if you can make it to Wednesday night, please do. My phone number is 734-968-4715, or you can write me at jtater2@yahoo.com, and I'll send you an invite. With that said, I will say goodbye.
Goodbye, John. Have a great day, Mr. Tater.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, let me see if I can pull Ralph onto this a minute, because we had an interesting discussion on this topic. So Ralph was in fact there at the eclipse where I was. So we'll see if we can pull Ralph in on this, because it was real interesting. So I'm going to go ahead and play my little intro, take a short break, and we'll see if we can get Ralph on. Good morning, and welcome to the second hour of Brandenburg News Network. Well, it's probably going to be minutes. I don't know if I'm going to go the full hour today, but I'm going to bring Ralph, the IT guy, on in a minute. Ralph was there with our group, and hear what he has to say, because I think this is going to be interesting. But I'll go to the chat until Ralph joins here. So Leb says, I don't think Granholm should have been governor of Michigan either, since she's a Canadian. Yeah, there you go. That's great. I'm still leaning Shelby, or learning Shelby versus Norton. It is a difficult thing to learn these cases and or the laws, the stare decisis laws that are on the books, and how to use those as a form of a legal weapon to get things done. But I'm still learning it too, and I think John is still learning it too, and I think Ron is too, and the group, which is a beautiful process, because they're finding different ways and talking about different ways that this applies to what's going on around us. We really didn't see anything here. Looked like a very late afternoon. I would expect that you didn't, unless you get into the path of totality. It just looks like, the closer you get, it looks like it's kind of twilight. But when you're in the path of totality, it is spectacular. Like the shadow that runs across the world, and I've seen it now twice. It's moving at 1,500 miles an hour, so it's kind of like it rolls. I mean, it's just like boom. It moves really quickly. You go from being into a kind of a twilight, light scenario to nighttime, and it's really an amazing. The animals get really quiet. It's like the bugs and the birds get really, really quiet. They're confused. So I don't think that you ever see that even in nighttime. If you go into nighttime, you have different animals that are in birds that are chirping or tweeting and such. When the eclipse happens, we had 4 minutes of total eclipse that we got to look at the beautiful eclipse that we saw. But the animals are confused, and it's really kind of fun. It gets super, super quiet out, and then all of a sudden, everybody says, okay, we're timing this, because you can't look at it with the naked eye. As soon as the diamond appears, you can etch your retina. So you've got to be really, really careful at looking directly at it without the glasses on. So we'll see if Ralph comes on here and we'll talk about it some more. But it's a really amazing thing. And the next one, I believe, is in 2044. So God willing, if I'm still alive, I probably will make a trek down to Miami or Alaska. So I would be 80 years old. So if I'm still alive at that point in time, I'm going to probably make a trek to see this again, because it is a very, very beautiful thing to see. Very interesting. And usually it's a once in a lifetime or maybe twice in a lifetime thing that most people have the opportunity to see, because you do have to travel for it. Hey, Ralph, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Wonderful. Thank you for jumping on. So I told everybody Ralph was where I was. We had a group of people that were there, and we got to see the eclipse, and it was very, very beautiful. Now I saw a line, and it was about dimensionally, it was about a quarter of the height of the moon that you could see with the naked eye, and it stayed up the entire time. It didn't change. It didn't move. It was absolutely constant the whole time, the 4 minutes that we were able to remove our glasses and look at this with a naked eye.
Yeah, I saw a red spot instead, and seemed like a few of the people that saw it saw more of a line, and a few people saw more of a spot.
Yeah, so that came out of Texas. I don't know if you saw that. I don't think I showed that to you.
No, I didn't see that one. But yeah, that's pretty much what it looked like in person, except where we were at. I would say that dot was rotated to about, I don't know.
It was a little. It was a little bit more like right here.
Yeah, like take that image and rotate it, I don't know, 10, 15 degrees clockwise, and that's what it looked like.
Yeah, that's where I saw it, right about there, where it's darker here, where this little dark mass comes off.
Yeah, because it was almost directly at the bottom of it.
Yeah, not quite, but I saw a line, and that line was about a quarter of the height dimensionally of the moon.
Yeah, and then the other thing too that I found interesting is that we stayed until the eclipse was done, where it was completely uncovering the sun, and right in the very last few seconds of where you could still see just a sliver of the moon covering just the very edge of the disk of the sun. It looked to me, because I was watching through the eclipse glasses, it looked to me like there was kind of like a dark spot protruding from the disk of the moon into the disk of the sun a little bit too, where it was, sticking out slightly from round. And I'm not sure what that was, and there was no good way to capture that because it was not during the totality event, so you could only see it through the eclipse glasses.
Sometimes you have to see things with a naked eye to really see what's going on. That there are certain things that can't be captured by the current technology that we have, no matter what anybody says.
Yeah, and for anybody out there who is looking at taking a look at this next time, I would highly recommend getting as close to the center of the path of totality as you can.
Yeah, we're nerds, so we were probably within a half mile of that center of totality.
Yeah, and that gives you, number one, if you're in the path of totality, if you are off center, you will still see some totality, but it will be shorter duration. If you're closer to the center, you have more time. Now, if you're outside of the path of totality, it is, I would say it's going to be a completely different experience than being completely in totality.
Absolutely.
Because when you're in totality, you do get to experience the partial totality as the, partial eclipse as the, as it crosses going into the totality event and then coming back out of it. You get to experience that as well. But the totality event is actually really significant, I think.
It's very significant. You can't explain it if nobody's been in the path of totality.
Yeah, because it gets really dark and
cold.
Cold. Yeah, I was I forgot until we were almost down there that it would have been really good to have a thermometer to see how much the temperature changed, and that would have been really interesting to chart that.
I would take a guess and say it was at least 20 degrees.
Yeah, that's probably about accurate. And the other thing too is that the bugs and the animals all kind of seem to get kind of confused by it.
Yeah, they change. It's like all of a sudden it gets super quiet, like really, really quiet. Both times that I've seen this, it's like the world takes a pause and is like the bugs, the animals, everything just gets super quiet.
Yeah, it's really cool. And then it as soon as the totality event is over, and you've got even just the faintest sliver of the solar disk shining around the moon, it's amazing how fast it gets light and how fast it gets hot again. The temperature comes right back. It's like flipping a switch. It's really cool.
Yeah, it was a really, really amazing thing. And when you even talk about getting close to totality, it looks kind of like a twilight, but not exactly, because the sun, it's not exactly like when the sun goes down at night. It's just really weird. It's got a real
Well, for one thing, you get basically like a sunset sky all the way around.
yes.
So you can look at the horizon in every direction, and it looks like a sunset to a certain extent.
And you can see the shadow as it goes past you. You can see the shadow of the eclipse as it moves. Up in the sky, you'll see this dark area up in the sky as it's moving past you. Because I was watching off to the northeast after it passed us, and the southwest too. You could see this. You see the shadow of it move. I mean, it's not like a small shadow. It's like this big, dark, nondescript area devoid of light.
Yeah, it's a really cool experience. And then too, even during a partial eclipse, you've got all of the shadows through anything that has kind of like a pinhole aperture. So like small pinpricks of light going through in between leaves of a tree or something like that end up kind of projecting that eclipse image onto the ground, just like a camera lens would, just exactly the same mechanism as a pinhole camera. And you can see the same kind of effect by holding up like a colander, or there was a guy near where we were at that punched some holes in a piece of cardboard.
I can put that up. I've got a picture of it.
Yeah, it's really kind of neat. But you get those shadows out of natural things too, like I said, trees or other plants, basically anything that has a narrowed aperture so that the image can be focused. And yeah, it's just really cool.
Let me see if I can throw that up a minute. Yeah, this is kind of fun.
There is a group of people that will actually go and travel all over the world to experience total solar eclipses. And I mean, that can get expensive kind of quick. But on the other hand, they don't actually happen that frequently, no matter where around the world you are.
So this guy had a piece of cardboard that he had punched some holes in with his jackknife. Did a pretty good job without having this gridded out. He just likes punching holes with his jackknife and then like putting holes into this cardboard, and held it up over a collapsible tote that he had. And this is what was the result of it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was kind of neat.
Even if you were to travel all over the world to chase these things, they still don't happen very often.
Well, and something that I saw too was the red spots on it.
Yeah.
there's an article that I found that I don't remember exactly where it came from, but I'll have to look up the source on it. But there's an article that talks about this being a very miraculous thing to see, even if you see an eclipse, to see one that has the red lines out from it is kind of a miraculous thing to ever see in your life.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing any red around it the last eclipse.
No, there wasn't. And I remember that clearly because I would have picked up on that.
Yeah, because it was pretty obvious this time.
It was very obvious. So pretty exciting. So what else do you want to talk about today? John jumped off today and we're talking. I've got Friday, I'm going to have Dr. David Kent on. He's got an amazing story. We're going to be talking about home first aid.
Very cool. That's something that that is woefully lacking in a lot of people's knowledge toolkits, I would say, including my own.
Yeah, I think I'm in that camp too. So this is another thing that we don't know, but he's going to talk about how to suture wounds,
Very
as
cool.
well as using a home first aid kit and such, because I think that we really need to talk about getting off our dependence on the system. That's a big thing. There's another guy on my channel. His name is Ned, and he volunteers at food banks. So I got communicating with him last night about how important the food banks are and how to successfully set them up.
Sure. Well, and we talked last time about how to ensure that you have a water source, and that it's critically important, especially with how many big corporations at this point are attempting to control all of the water on the planet and basically enslave humanity. But I think that there's so many other topics that you can cover to really kind of promote that ability to be independent of the system. It's not about making sure that it's not about getting away from the system entirely, but it's making sure that you can be independent if you need to. And so, yeah, I guess another thing that we could talk about is we could talk about food preservation. We could talk about communications, or even just informational archiving. I think the informational archiving is one that is really, really good too. There's a lot of good resources out there for that. I mean, even just aside from going to like used bookstores or library book sales and just finding nonfiction books that are on a broad variety of topics so that you've got that information.
Yeah, this is super interesting. Let me see if I can let's see, we've got, no, I'm not going to subscribe to it. And let me see if I can scroll down on this puppy. There's a scroll button.
I don't know. How about that?
The scroll site. Okay, here we go. Here we go. This is what I'm looking for. So this is in Forbes. Stuart and Linda Resnick. They bought up they have the wonderful company. It is a closely held company owned by billionaires, and they're true ones. Donna Brandenburg is not a billionaire, not even close. Okay,
and it is the wonderful company.
It is the wonderful
because they are like the makers of Palm Wonderful, the pomegranate drink, as I recall.
They make a lot of different things. It's quite so it's all about farmland, prioritizing water rights when purchasing farmland. This is going to end up being a big deal. This is why they're trying to outlaw people from having gardens in the crazy states, like, what is it, Oregon? Is it Oregon that was trying to outlaw gardens, or is it? Yeah. And so now that these ridiculous people in these NGOs are the water bank, which is a public-private partnership. Don't say those words around me without intending or understanding you're going to get fried for it. In which the Resnicks own 57% stake is 32 square mile recharge basin, which looks like floodlands from the street that essentially stores up to 1.5 million acre feet of water underground. They literally stole the entire the rights to water in that area, and that's what's going to happen with it's not going to happen because we're not going to let it happen, but that's what these people want to do, is they want to say that they own the water rights, and or the people that will play ball with those in office are going to get favors in order to continue their businesses and own more and more and more if they have a public-private partnership. It's about taking assets and putting it in the hands of criminal politicians.
And then you've got all the stuff too that Nestle pulls all over the world to lock up water. You've got what is it? I think it's the Harvard Endowment Fund that has been buying up vineyards and water rights out in California primarily. But this kind of stuff happens all over the place when people let it.
Well, Nestle, what needs to be done in the state of Michigan for Nestle is to absolutely go after that. For $250, they bought they got a permit to pull millions and millions and millions of gallons out of Michigan, just to pull it right out. That's it. They just got a $250 permit. This is not okay. This is not okay. And I don't know what kind of favors that somebody in office is getting over this, but what has this to do with protecting or even serving the people of the state of Michigan? I'd like to know how many wells have gone dry because of these corporations, or the pollution that's gone on. Like I think it's up on the northeast side of Grand Rapids, and I believe it's Wolverine Worldwide. Is that the one that had their tanning chemicals?
That sounds about right, but I don't remember for sure.
They ruined. I mean, they literally ruined. Let me see. I'll find it. Hang on a minute.
Yeah, so that water independence is a huge, huge thing. I mean, if you've got crops that are native here, they're designed to be able to grow on the water resources that are already here. So if you're doing farming in more of a sustainable way, you can probably get by with suboptimal irrigation. I wouldn't say no irrigation, but you could probably get by with suboptimal irrigation. But what happens if all of that water is locked up and you need to be able to provide for yourself or your family? For the human needs for water, for your pets' needs for water. You want to have some way of filtering that and being able to draw water from, again, suboptimal sources and purify it so it's usable.
Well, I think their lawsuit is $69.5 million against Wolverine Worldwide for contaminating the water source with tannins, with chemicals used during the tanning process, because that whole area now there's a contamination plume there.
Yeah, there's another big one, if I remember right, up by Muskegon, that is a chromium bloom from the chrome plating industry up there.
Oh yeah, there's only one company in the area, I think, that does chrome plating. Is that true?
Yeah, I think there's one or maybe two now, because they've increased the regulations so much to try and keep that chromium pollution from getting into the groundwater, because that hexavalent chromium is an amazing, amazing coating. However, it is incredibly toxic. So you got to be pretty careful with that. And there's a couple of companies that are there's like one or two companies up there now, and they're small companies, and from the looks of it, it's like family-run businesses kind of thing for doing specialty chrome plating. And I would say that they are probably under just an immense amount of scrutiny. That process is incredibly expensive if you need to get it done on a part now, because of how much care has to be taken with that whole process versus, back in the day, willy-nilly coating every piece of a car in chrome. It's beautiful, protects it really well, but they didn't necessarily do that great of a job of protecting the environment.
And chromium is actually clear.
Yeah.
I don't know if people realize that. It doesn't have a silver look to it. It's actually a clear coating that they put over another material.
The silver look usually comes from nickel plating, which nickel is also fairly toxic. But yeah, they nickel plate stuff to get the nice shiny coating, and then they overplate it with chrome, which is just basically a clear coat that protects the nickel coating. And if properly done, it's incredibly durable.
Yeah, I remember being a kid. Okay, here's a kid story. I remember being a kid, and you would have your bicycle, because I was on my bike all the time. And I loved my bike when I was a kid. It was like the pinnacle of coolness when you're a kid is to have a bike, right? And I had my one bike had gotten rust on the fenders, because we used to have chrome fenders on our wheels and such, over our wheels. And every year I had to clean it up with an SOS pad to shine it up, because it had gotten rusty. So that clearly the chrome had kind of gotten compromised.
Yeah. And anymore, now we've got, stainless steel, which is nickel and chromium mixed into steel. So it's kind of, we went from having a base steel with a chrome plate on it, or with a nickel plate and then a chromium plate, to just integrating the nickel and the chromium into the steel itself. And that, from what I've seen of it, that seems to be a far less environmentally damaging and far less toxic method, because it actually locks the chromium and the nickel into the steel, so it doesn't really leach out. And then you get something that's also fairly scratch resistant, because if it gets scratched, you just kind of sand it or buff it out, because it's not just a plating. So I don't know, it's one of those things that's like chromed regular steel is incredibly beautiful, and it can be very, very durable. But on the other hand, we've got other materials now that are far less damaging.
And expensive. I mean, stainless steel is expensive to manufacture in.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we don't use it as much as we could or probably should. I mean, you want to talk about getting rid of the planned obsolescence of so many different products. That would be one of them. Right now,
I'd love to see more road bridges constructed out of the structural duplex stainless. It increases the cost dramatically, but on the other hand, they pretty much last forever. Yeah,
it lowers it over time. That's the problem, is that we are not making contracts, even with the road surfaces we have and how they're doing the roads right now. Why do we have all this road construction in Michigan? Somebody answer me this question. Because they're using faulty materials. It's sort of like what they some of the problems that we've had in concrete over the past few years, and how many failures we've had in bridges with the concrete and such, faulty concrete. Well, and there's an area here over by Grand Rapids where they had an on-ramp, the on-ramp into 196 from M6. They didn't put an additive in it or something. And guess what? They never found it until the freaking warranty ran out. And then they had to redo that area instead of going after the contractor right from the beginning. You can't tell me that somebody didn't know what was going on there, that they didn't know that it was put in. Seems to me like that was kind of a planned obsolescence by somebody, or a failure that was built into it. And so why is it? It just got just over the line on the warranty. And oh my gosh, they forgot to put an additive in it. Well, I guess we're going to have to redo it. Past warranty, who's going to pay for it? The people of the state of Michigan. Unbelievable. Unbelievable how these people work.
Well, and then also, why do we keep using steel rebar that corrodes, rusts, and then expands when it rusts and busts up concrete, when we already have alternatives like basalt-based rebar systems and other materials for doing rebar?
Because they want it to fall apart. They want this to fall apart.
Yeah,
so they can rebuild it again. It's a whole industry. And I'm going to go back to the stupid barrels. We got a barrel problem in Michigan. Who's got the contract? I don't know, but we're paying for barrels all over the state when no work is going on.
Oh, the construction barrels, yeah.
Yeah, the orange barrels.
Yeah. Yep, there's better materials that things could be made out of. And we keep just using old materials and old methods. That's one of the problems I have with the objections to nuclear power. Yeah, I mean, this is going off on kind of a different related subject here, but
it's
nuclear
the same
power
process of failure, though. That's what you're talking about. It's a process failure.
Nuclear power, they've got much more modern designs, some of which are pretty much meltdown proof, where they are inherently safer designs than what is being built. The problem is that the approvals to build those designs take so long, there's so much red tape to them, that even though we've got safer designs for nuclear power, we keep building power plants that are based on 1960s, 1970s designs, because they're the only ones that are actually approved to be built. And some of those have got incredible engineering flaws in them that have been fixed in modern designs, but by golly, we can't build them. And I think part of that is also intentionally being held back so that it promotes all of this, all of the green energy stuff that is incredibly environmental polluting, in favor, doing that instead of deploying nuclear and using up a natural resource that comes from the ground, uranium. The radioactivity is already there.
Yeah.
We could be using that up, and making it less radioactive. And yeah, you've got radioactive waste that comes out of it, but it's going to be less radioactive than what we dug out of the ground in the first place.
There you go. This is kind of interesting to me because I see the flaw in the thought process of all of these discussions. It's either this or that. It's either Republican or Democrat. What if they both suck? It's you know what I mean? It's like, It's either nuclear or petroleum. Well, what if why do we only have these two choices? Why are we constantly divided on two choices all the time? When we have two bad choices, we're pitting against each other, or things are being hidden through regulation or asset capture or industry capture that the people in control really just want. These people are really, 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 and I've seen them and I've worked with them. The intelligence level of most of these people is like, it's bad. It's really bad because it's all about just being in power. It's not about, are they actually serving? And that's another thing that John and I didn't talk about, of qualifications of people that get in office. There should be a heavy vetting for integrity. And I mean a heavy vetting to see if they're going to do the right thing or if they're going to follow the money, if they're going to follow that money trail for themselves, for unjust gain.
Yep.
So the companies involved in I just looked it up here a minute. The companies involved in the Muskegon plume is Peerless Plating Site. The Peerless Plating Site conducted operations such as copper, nickel, chromium, cadmium, zinc, and electroplating. And another one is Quality Plating Company. Detected PFAS in concentrations at 356 parts PBT in the groundwater and is expected to flow generally to the southeast towards Little Black Creek. But those are just two. I'm not sure that one is in Michigan. I'll have to look further into that one. But the Peerless Plating Site is the one that you're talking about up in Muskegon. The Wolverine Worldwide is kind of a big deal because you have there is a biometrical surveillance program for those with PFAS present in their blood, and the judge is asked to remediate their homes and provide ongoing testing of water.
Yeah, and I think everyone within that area, if I remember right, it has, because it got into the groundwater, it has contaminated all of the wells up there. Once again, making people dependent on water infrastructure to provide clean drinking water. And in this case, I think the general recommendation up there is to filter your well water for the chemicals that are in that bloom. But it's another reason why people need to make sure that they have some water independence infrastructure.
Yes. So I think this is going to be a great thing for us to go down with independence. I got to show everybody what I did this week. Ta-da! There's my apple pie filling. I've got 14 jars of apple pie filling. So I've got some friends I'm going to give some apple pie filling to.
And glass is a great way to. It's a great way to store just about anything. Doesn't leach any. It doesn't leach chemicals into food like a lot of plastics do, and it's impervious to most substances. I mean, technically, you can dissolve water with glass, but it takes forever, and it does. It's basically biologically inert even when that happens.
I think you meant to say glass with water. You said
Yes.
dissolve water with glass.
Yeah. So okay. Yeah, sorry, you're right. Yeah, you can if you've got like distilled water and you store it in glass, the distilled water can actually eat the glass. It dissolves that into the water, but even then, it's still biologically inert. So glass is a great way to store stuff.
Did you ever see the old glass in houses? Old glass, and it looks like it's kind of flowing.
Yeah, and kind of the reason for that is because a lot of that was developed before modern float glass techniques.
So it was built into the glass.
Yeah. There's kind of a myth that glass flows, but a lot of that is actually a lot easier to explain if you look at the old glassmaking processes, because, for example, one of them that used to get used was to take like a round plate and take molten glass, put it in the center of the plate, and spin the plate really fast. And that would smooth out the glass into a sheet that then you could cut into panes and stuff. But it wasn't perfect because you would still have thicker glass toward the center. And I don't remember the reasoning for it, but in a lot of the old like churches and cathedrals, when they did the glass, they tended to put the thicker side of the glass toward the bottom. And I don't remember why. There was some either aesthetic or functional reason why they did that. But then you look at that and it looks like the glass flowed, but it was actually part of the early glassmaking process. Now what we do is we have like a molten bed of tin, I believe, and you put the glass, you dump the glass onto the tin, the glass floats on the tin, and it's like a continuous process where glass goes onto the tin at one end of the pool, and then you pull your sheet of glass out at the other end of the pool. But because the tin is molten, the glass cools down much more slowly, so it has a chance to actually flow out into like a perfectly flat and consistently thick sheet. So it's a different process.
I love all the processes, and I know you do too. So that's kind of fun. So anything else you want to talk about today? It's almost 11, and thank you for jumping on here today, just talking about anything.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, I love the different processes. I've got a really good chemical engineering book that is, I think it's Chemical Engineer's Handbook. And boy, that thing is absolutely fascinating. What's that?
As you do.
Well, yeah, you got to archive this stuff and you got to have printed versions of it,
Yeah, absolutely.
But the reason why that book is so good is not because of the chemistry side of it. It's actually because of the production, like the production line logistics information that it's got on doing different chemical processes and how to most efficiently take advantage of your processes to get a desired product.
Okay, just throw something out there for everybody that would be interesting. Ralph the IT guy trivia time.
Oh, I don't know.
Or maybe it's not trivia.
Yeah. No, I don't know.
Okay, so I'll hit you up on this later. And so you're
Put
gonna
me
have
on
to,
the spot here.
Yeah, that's okay. So got to do that once in a while. We'll see how quick you're going to check your response time.
Yeah.
So,
Well, you should have, I would say everyone should have books on a variety of different topics, not just like 100 books on how to forage for food. You want to have a few books on, but you want to have, you've got a lot more books than that though. Just like I do. I've got a lot.
Savage.
I got a lot of books too, but I've got books, you want to have books on like probably some stuff on chemistry. You want to have stuff on mineral identification. You want to have stuff on
plants.
Yep. You want to have stuff on plants. You want to have stuff on probably on animals. You want to have stuff on, like, I've got a book on knife making. That is an incredibly valuable skill to be able to have. Have books on, like, conversion tables and data on things. Like there's an old book series, well, kind of a book series called Desk Ref. That's a great book. It has like every conversion table you can think of in one convenient book. And they've got a whole series of them where you can get them in like pocket size. You can get them in full size book for a bookshelf. It's a great book. And it's got all kinds of, like, here's how much this kind of thing weighs. Here's all kinds of measurement stuff, basic specifications on like anything that you could need for machinery. That kind of thing, should have cookbooks.
Should have putting food away books, the preserving and fertilizer and what's your ground like.
Yep.
I'm looking for something. I typically love watching these tech process videos. These simple. I can't think of those sites that I like right offhand, but there's some really good ones. Let me see if I can just grab something here.
I think probably one of the cooler books that I've got that's just got just general random information in it is the Patent Office used to publish books, like compendium books of all of the patents that came in during a particular period. So like it might be one particular month in the 20s or something like that. They show all of the patents that came in. They show all of the patent litigation against existing patents. And it's all in one nice packaged book. With all the drawings from all the patents, all the patent language, all of that kind of stuff, because it's public information. They used to publish it as books. Those books are fascinating to look through.
You can keep talking here. I'm looking. I want to see. There's one that I want to see if I can find it. Will be in one of my channels that I watch. Yeah, there's so many cool things out there that you can watch. We get into the the political structure and why things are broken a lot, but there's a lot of really, really interesting things to look at that are solutions, easy. Here's one.
And as we experienced with the eclipse, there's a lot of beauty and orderliness to the world if you get away from the things of imperfect human beings.
Yes.
God has really created a beautiful world if you get outside of that little tiny bubble of imperfection and enjoy the world for what it is, not for what you want it to be.
Well, and I think that's, maybe I should stop looking for this and we can go to that direction because honestly, I really do think, here, Cool Bra is I like this guy. Let's see if I can. I'll watch these once in a while.
If you are
This is a Donna Brandenburg craziness that I like to watch people that are doing their jobs just to try to figure out.
frightened by idiots at work, watch.
Heck, I think I've got 2 books on how to make socks.
Because you should know.
Yeah,
how to make
everyone should have a book, or maybe 2 books on how to make socks.
What happens if you can't get socks? Let's see if this is
Professionals and relax.
Go ahead. Make my day.
This guy slices potatoes in such a cool way. They go straight into the pan.
Think he's done that once or twice?
I would think. It's amazing.
You think I'm a robot?
A mesmerizing process of collecting ice from a body of water.
And why do I like these processes? I don't know. I am totally obsessed with watching these videos. Get ideas off of watching stuff like this.
The ice is gonna break.
Perfect teamwork results in a hypnotizing process of making flatbread. Just a couple of seconds, and you have an original plate with a cute pattern. Not every machine could pave the drive as perfectly as this guy does manually.
Think he's done that a few times?
A quick and intricate job cutting dough.
I don't know. It looks like his first day on the job to me.
That's a skill. This is just the process of making a pallet, but in the hands of a professional, it looks perfect.
Okay, that's just cool. That's just cool. So, anyhow, let's
Yeah, I
talk
watched
about
a video recently of somebody watching U.S. house construction practices. He was, I think, a British guy. He was amazed by the concept of a nail gun. And you think about that, that is actually a pretty neat invention. It's one that you kind of take for granted if you've ever worked around construction for any length of time, but if you haven't, it's really a pretty neat thing.
Yeah, truly. Well, let's go back and talk about God here for a minute and the eclipse, and then we're going to finish out. So I think the whole thing that I'm pretty sure that both you and I saw was the fact that this is so representational of how our culture has shifted into just being really satisfied with the simple things of God, living a great life and having the awe of what God makes, not what we have to embellish on it or make it more than what it really is. And the Bible talks about casting down all vain imaginations. One way to do that is to just get on the ground and see for yourself and find out what's real, doing a little research and such. So I do think that that's a process that we need to think about. But going back to the simplicity of how beautiful this world is that God made for us, and not necessarily even needing much else other than, wow, enjoying a day with your dog or watching something grow. The dandelions are starting to come out, and the flowers in Michigan here. There's so many things to just be in awe of every day that God makes. The clouds, the beauty, that we don't really need to even put a whole lot more time into thinking that our knowledge is going to save us. It's not. It's helpful to fix problems in the ongoing or the long game, but the reality is that God has control of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And this is God's battle, and we can just rest assured that, guess what? Eclipses have been going on for years and years and years and years. And I'm not going to debate it with anybody right now, but I believe for a lot longer than what we have traditionally thought.
And look at the orderliness of it. I mean, the times on it are known because it's so consistent. The times are known on it down to the second. When totality starts, when totality ends for different locations all over the place. You can calculate all of that kind of stuff because it is so consistent how all of that stuff orbits. And it's amazing the orderliness to things when you really stop and look at it.
And in an out of control world, which I think that all of us can agree that it's a little crazy out there. It's a little more than crazy out there. But God's world is consistent, and we can rest in his arms because he doesn't change. He's good all the time. And we can see his hand at work in the world around us, even though we're kind of trying to figure out what went wrong so that we don't repeat it. We do need to go through that process, but not with fear and not with being all upset and afraid every day and not worrying about when the sky is going to fall next and what's going to go wrong and how they're going to screw us next or whatever, because you hear that all the time. It is, yeah, they're going to do it because human beings are highly flawed, as well as some human beings are very evil, that they have thrown in with pure evil. And we need to be able to recognize this so that we can fix things and never, ever, ever let this happen again. That's why we look at things. But it's not for the sky is falling. It's God's in control. There's nothing here that's a surprise to him. He is in control of even as far as Satan can go. Satan's just nothing but a little punk on a leash because Jesus finished it. So he's only going where people allow him to go at this point in time. When we decide that we're going to stop asking these processes into our lives and live the way that God wants us to live, I'm pretty sure he's going to haul this back in. Not that we're not perfect. And you got to understand, there's a difference, and you got to have discernment on this. There's a difference between people who make mistakes just being people, because we are flawed. All of us are flawed. I'm flawed. Ralph's flawed. Everybody out there's flawed, right? But there was only one that was perfect, and that's Jesus Christ, and he didn't throw a stone at anybody else for being human and just kind of fumbling around like a bunch of little kids, because that's what we do. We're imperfect. We're learning. But there's those others that have committed things that are pure evil that are pretty much non-rehabilitatable. When you get somebody who's a pedophile that has done harm to children, you're not going to rehabilitate them. And then we can listen to their own words, which convicts them. Jeffrey Dahmer, he said, if you release me, I will be right out doing this again tomorrow. There's something fundamentally wrong with some of these people, and some people that fall in with evil. I'm not sure that humanly, well, I am sure, I'm positive we cannot humanly rehabilitate these people. It's not possible. God can do miracles in any one of us, but there's got to be a want to change. And quite often people that fall in with evil, they have no interest in changing. They don't want to change. They're not sorry. They'll do it again. And those type of people, we cannot unleash on the innocent, because they will absolutely destroy. They will destroy not just human life, but they will destroy anyone that comes in their path because they enjoy doing this. There's something fundamentally wrong with them. You're not going to change them. A serial rapist, you're not going to change them. Nobody is powerful enough to get past that. Now, God is. We can pray and ask God to do it, but it has nothing to do with human beings. It's God's hand on them, which is why it's important for all of us to pray every day. Not ourselves. It's not of ourselves. It's God himself that that we put them in his hands, and he has the ability to change a human heart, to change somebody fundamentally from top to bottom. But that person has also they've got their part in it. They've got to want to change.
Well said.
So I think that all of these misconceptions that we've had in our nation, well, we've got to feel sorry, we've got to help these people. It's another way to manifest that we're trying to be God. And some of these situations we can help in, and we certainly will step up, and we want to help anyone who's struggling with certain things. But people have to want to change. And you can't change that. You can show them compassion and kindness and see if they change, but that doesn't give them a broad pass to try to mainstream them and put them in the public to just go out there and commit the crime again.
Yep,
So
well said.
we can have lots of discussions on what true justice is, what true mercy is, and what truly being helpful is, as opposed to somebody who's just wide-eyed and unrealistic about how the world, and this is part of some of the brainwashing that they've done to the nation to make people, to put people in kind of a fantasy land world that we're just going to go in there and do the right thing and they'll learn from us. No, that's not how it works. The change only comes through God himself. We can be a good example, but we are not God, and we cannot and do not have the ability to in ourselves change people. We can pray for them. We can do nice things. We can help. And I'm not talking about it, we're going to go to the discernment part. I'm not talking about people on this side that are just people kind of making mistakes. We can help come alongside people like the Holy Spirit does to us. And we can be helpful to them, and they will, bless them and such, but always point back to God. But those people that are committed to doing evil, that enjoy it, that's a different story. And we need that discernment. It's not the same. And that's part of, I think, the brainwashing that's gone on in the United States of America and the world for that matter, that to tell people, oh, you can change these people. You're God. No, you're not. It's another lie.
Well, I think, too, there's also the side of it where people get into the mindset of, well, God can forgive everything, so it doesn't matter what I do, he'll forgive me.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
that's not true.
I tend to think, to use kind of an allegory here, I think God thinks of us, if you've ever had pets, I think that, I think it's kind of a similar thing where God takes care of us just like we take care of our pets.
Or our children. I mean, he's our father. So it's like it's a father-child relationship.
Yeah. And you look at them with love, but you also have to kind of correct behavior when they're behaving improperly, because they're going to hurt themselves. Right. They are going to do damage to themselves long term, and they don't even realize it. And if you've got a pet that has a bad behavior and they keep doing it over and over and over, well, there's a pretty good chance that you're going to find increasing ways of trying to teach them that is not a behavior, that maybe they shouldn't be pooping on the carpet in the middle of the living room every single day,
or biting. Look at the different types of things that they could do.
Or, yes, having a dog that is bitey or chases around your kids, or something like that. Or if you've got, I've got chickens. If you've got chickens that are going after each other, pecking at each other, fighting with each other, anything like that, and you have to teach them those behaviors to keep them from hurting themselves or others. Well, if you've got a pet that is not learning one way, well, you may have to change the way that you're trying to teach them. And the same kind of thing with people. If people are behaving improperly and it's just, oh, I'm going to just keep doing this and God will forgive me, I'm pretty extra sure that that's not going to be looked at particularly favorably, and that's probably not going to give you a real good outcome long term.
Well, that's love. And it's not love. I mean, the people that we love, we should have respect for them too. But yes. Look at God. I mean, this comes down to an issue of respect. We need to respect God, and we respect God and love him. If you say that this is another problem of seeing God as words on a page or a broad generality or concept, but not a person, our Father who walks with us. It's another hit job they've done on our brains and in the brainwashing. God is a person. Think about how you would want to be treated. I mean, treat others, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Well, what about our relationship with God? What's our relationship really with God? Can you look at God and say, I love you, but then basically slap him right across the face and go do whatever you want to do that grieves him. That's not love. That's a lie. And it's truly, it's a slap in the face to God. When you say you're sorry, when you really say you're sorry for something you did, then you don't repeat it. Or if you fall, he's going to pick you up again. But is there true sorrow? Is there true respect? Or do you just say, like you said, God's going to forgive me and I'm going to do whatever I want? No, that's not love. Think about if somebody did that. Think about if a friend, we want to be a friend to God. Think about what if a friend did that to a person and they lied over and over again. Wouldn't you be like, yeah, I'm not buying this anymore? That's not what love looks like. That love is honest. Love is true. Love tells the truth. Love believes and hopes all things. Love does the right thing under all circumstances. It's trustworthy. That's what God is. And we should be treating him the way we want him to treat us. It's a two-way street. We don't just use God. We love him and we respect him because of who he is, because we know him. And certainly don't slap him in the face, because I got a feeling even if you think you're on the right track, he's going to sit back and go, how's that working for you? He will let you commit whatever it is you want, and he'll sit back and watch you do it. But you're going to have your behind handed to you, because that's the way this world works. We have the ability to make choices, but there's also some consequences to it. And it's not a threat thing. It's like kind of like a mom or a dad, just kind of giving you a little bit of leeway, gently moving you back on the path so that you learn to be trustworthy and you learn those deep lessons. This life isn't about the material world. This life is drawing closer to God, learning to be more like him, which means we're learning to love. We're learning to be like God. God is love. And what does love look like? It's true. It doesn't let anybody down. It has integrity. God is always the same. And the eclipse, we can go back to the eclipse. Look at how predictable and safe that event is. Happens over and over again. The sun comes up every day. The sun goes down every day. The seasons are predictable. The moon has cycles and such. God built predictability and brings order out of this chaos that's going. Satan, he just creates chaos and death. God brings order, restoration, redemption to all situations, even when we make bad decisions and we ask him, we say, man, we don't want to do this again. We want to be better. He will help us. He will help us to become more like him. And that's truly where our energy needs to be put, not in amassing the things of this world, but the eternal perspective, those things that are eternal.
Yeah. And that beauty in the natural world goes, and that order goes not just to, not even out just massive objects out in space, and the ordering to everything there. It goes down to the very smallest levels. Look at the structure of, for example, diamond or graphite, both very natural materials, and the way that the carbon atoms are organized within that. And even going down into the quantum level and looking at how quarks interact with each other. And there's so much there that you can look at it at every scale, at every level. There is an incredible amount of order and beauty to the natural world that God created.
I'm going to put up a video right now because I think this is really important, because it's important to understand that there are no accidents. There's no coincidences. There's none of this. And there's a lot of really hurting people out there, a lot. And people are afraid. They're afraid. They're hurting. People can't make sense of what's going on in the world. Well, they don't know what their purpose is, Well, let's check this out a minute, because I'm going to go right back to this, at the flash of light at the moment of conception. This is so important and significant for not just this day, but every day. Oh, look at this. the number here, 17 seconds in this video. 17, my favorite number, just putting that out there. But let's watch this. This is how we all began. The moment the very life of God entered that union between the sperm and the egg, the moment of conception. It's amazing. This is why you can look at us and say, we're not just flesh and blood. We're a spirit inhabiting a body.
And even that process of DNA replication is, once again, at a very, very small scale. It's incredible how all of that works. Mm-hmm. How the genes are able to encode the proteins that make up the proteins, enzymes, all of that kind of stuff, that then go on to assemble different parts of the cell. How DNA is copied. I'm looking forward to someday getting up to heaven and being able to talk a little bit more directly with, and hopefully get a few more answers about how the ultimate programmer wrote the code for us, for our earthly bodies here. Because it's fascinating how all that works at such a small level. It really is very, very similar to a computer program. And it's at such an amazingly tiny level. And it makes perfect sense. When the more that we study it, the more that we learn about it, the more consistent things get. Because you learn the rules of how they all work at that small scale.
Yeah, we don't need a superhero. We've already got one. And he walks with us every single day. And that's God Almighty. This is the peace that we can have, is knowing that we don't need to get into this Hollywood nonsense or any of that. We have a living Savior that walks with us every single day, that made the ability for us to truly walk with God on this earth. Talk to him. We don't need anything else. We do not need a superhero. We do not need the next process or anything, because he'll guide us into all things. He wrote the code. I like the way that you said that. He wrote the code.
Yep.
He created.
You look at DNA. He is the ultimate programmer. And the smaller that you look at things, and the bigger that you look at things too, at galactic scales, the order in the natural world is amazing.
And if he wrote the code, he can fix the code. Yep. He knows how to get us out of, because he knows how to get us out of the situations we're in. We just have to be willing. We need to walk away from the mindset that goes with, say, like Jeffrey Dahmer. We need to go back to God, and he will repair, restore, and redeem anything. He knows how to do that. He can raise someone from the dead. He can restore relationships. He can restore our family. And you know what? He can restore this nation. No matter what anybody says, when we turn to God and we pray and we ask him to be with us, he is good and faithful, and he's in charge. I don't care what anybody says, who anybody else thinks is in charge. That's a lie. God's in charge. Good guys are in charge. That would be God. God's plan.
Yep.
And we can stand on that unwavering, no matter what anybody else says. Let them have their fun and games. Let them have their little threats to, I heard one this week was death to America. Some idiot got on and, death to America. How about you just jump on board and help us redo the process here instead of death to America? You hear pick out a group you hate. How about we just kind of all get together and try to figure out how to how to bring this thing back into a lawful process and designate it's either good or it's evil. That's it. There's 2 designations. The rest of it's distraction.
Yep.
Yep. So let's say a prayer here, Ralph.
Okay.
All right. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so very, very much. We are in awe of your majesty and your the wondrous works of your hands, how you put all this together. It is amazing. And we want to know every single thing that you put here for us. It's like finding, little nuggets of truth here and there, and wonderful processes we can look at, and things that are interesting, and the good that you've put into each and every one of us, because we're all such unique people and beings and such you've created, and you put into us the exactly what you wanted to the material, the inclinations, the way that we're put together. You knit us together wonderfully in our mother's wombs, and we are so thankful for that. You knew exactly what we were going to be like, and that brings so much joy to you. And we're just so thankful. We're thankful for each and every person out there, and the beauty that you put within them, that we can walk together, and even the flaws that you planned in each of us that we learn from. They may not be flaws at all. It's just flaws for the human mind sees things inaccurately. They may not be flaws at all. They may be wonderful things that you put in each one of us that the world deems as bad, but that you planned out. We don't know, because you see things not with human eyes. You see things with your eyes. And we ask that you would give us the ability to see each other with your eyes, to have wisdom and discernment that only comes from you, that we can forgive people for being human and making just crazy little mistakes and such. And we ask that you would absolutely go after evil and pure evil and end their reign of terror here that has honestly destroyed everything. We walk with you in your strength and your protection, and we know that evil is already done. It's already done, and their time here is short, and all we have to do is turn to you, and you're right here with us. And I also believe that in you so strongly that even the faith of one person, the strong faith of one person, is enough to save this world. I really do believe that, but it's all in your timing. You know what's going on. But my faith and our faith is in you, in your character. We love you. You're our best friend, our Father, our Savior, and we just want to walk with you today. Teach us to be more like you and walk away from our flaws. Help us to help the world to see us, not to see us, but to see you and keep their eyes on you rather than on us, because there's only one perfect man that ever walked this earth that was able to live this life perfectly, and that's Jesus Christ. And we're so thankful that you loved us enough to send your only begotten Son here. We just love you so much, and we love what you are willing to do for us and what you've given us on a daily basis. And thank you for the eclipse experience. That was really cool. We had a great time, and as it was more beautiful than what we could have expected. It was absolutely amazing. And we just want to thank you for that and the safety of our travels and such. Bless each and every person out there today. We want to be a wonderful friend to you as you have been to us. We love you so much. In the name of Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
So there we go. So it's going to be a great day. I don't know what today is going to hold, but it's going to be a great one. I just know it is. So anyhow, everybody out there, just remember that you're loved beyond more words than, if you feel discouraged, you're loved more than you can possibly imagine. There's reasons for everyone. Ask God what the reason is for something that's going wrong around you. Maybe it's that you needed to redirect in a little bit in another direction, or he's teaching you something new. All things work for good to those who love the Lord and are called according to his purposes. So even things that seem like a mistake, they're not. They're there for a reason. It's okay. It's going to be okay. This is so much bigger than the way that we look at the world and the way that we look at life and what we're trying to achieve. Give it all to God, and it's going to be okay. It's going to be just fine. There's no worries. There's no fear. There's no consternation. You don't even worry about the people around you. when you truly are walking with God, because you know God's got this. Absolute, unwavering calm and peace and joy. So there you go. So with that said, go to BrandenburgForGovernor.com, because I'm the best non-conceder who has ever not conceded in the history of the United States. I'm going to go on record for that someday. Just wait. And it's going to be a great day. Go out and enjoy the world that God made for you, that you could see, and whatever it is, maybe a new pair of socks that's like, wow, this feels really great. Things that bring you joy. Or go get some ice cream, things that bring you joy in the midst of trouble. Go look at the people you love. Look into their eyes and tell them you love them. That there's all kinds of wonderful things that we can do and take part in today. Read your Bible, listen to scripture, get renewing of your mind, the renewing of your mind, so that you can walk into any new situation just like it's a new thing, and assess it for what it is with the knowledge you have in the back. But you can walk into it and go, well, could be a new day. Papa could have changed everything. So we can look and we can hope and we can expect all things, because he's in charge. So anyhow.
Oh, and look at the trees that are budding. See where they're at. Watch how they're progressing. See which ones are coming sooner and which ones are going to be a little later. Go listen to a stream for a while. Go look at how the bugs are going and crawling on the grass.
It's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And it repeats over and over again. It's not a new thing. It's a season for living, a season for dying, a season for living, a season for dying. And what new things is God going to bring up? It's kind of an amazing thing, but it's a good process. Life is not flawed. It's a good process. And remember that spark of life. That was you. That was you at some point in time. Were you planned by your mom and dad? Were you not? Doesn't matter. You were planned by God. So there you go. That's the only thing that matters. You were planned by God. You were not a mistake. So here we go. Since you have no hands and I'm the only one with hands, I'm going to put my hands up. So God bless you all. God bless all those whom you love, and God bless America. Make it a great day. It's going to be a great day. Great life, great day. No problems here. Just turn to God, and the things of this world will grow strangely dim in the presence of his power and grace. I don't know if I got the words from the song exactly right, but it's close. So have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow. I have, Ralph, you're back on tap tomorrow, and Bill Moore with Liberty Essentials, and then Todd Buffington, who has done an amazing job isolating the fraud, and it is fraud. It's the cheat in our 2020 and 2022 election. So you're going to want to hear this, because he's got all the evidence. It's all right there. So we'll see you tomorrow. Then Thursday and Friday we'll be on too. I've got some amazing guests this week, so it's going to be fun. Have a great day.